Hi, I'm Kelly Featherstone, Fellow of the Society of Actuaries. It's National Volunteer Week, and the SOA is taking the opportunity to feature volunteer members whose time and expertise has helped shape the SOA, the profession, and the community around them. During these unprecedented times, the SOA more than ever appreciates all that its volunteers do. To talk about how volunteerism has made an impact on her life and the lives of others, joining me today is Amanda Hug, FSA. So Amanda, when did you start volunteering at the SOA?
Hi, Kelly. Well, thanks for having me. I think I started volunteering. I started presenting at SOA meetings and writing in SOA publications pretty soon after I got my FSA. So that was around 2013. But the first really meaningful volunteer experience I had in the industry actually wasn't directly with the SOA. It was with the Actuaries Club of Hartford and Springfield. I started on the planning committee and eventually became the president. And that club is actually the largest in the country. We have over 400 members at our annual meetings or semi-annual meetings. And so through that, I got to experience why volunteering is so awesome and got to meet a lot of people from different companies around New England. And so then kind of transitioned into more SOA work. So right now I am the vice chair for the leadership and development section. And I joined L&D because I think leadership skills are so critical for actuaries. And while I think we have a lot of great actuarial leaders, I think we need more. And leadership and development puts out some really great content to help people build their leadership skills. And I wanted to be a part of that.
Great. So what prompted your decision to volunteer?
Well, if I think back, honestly, I think why I started and why I do it now is a little bit different. So I started just to meet people, right? So I have a great community of actuaries at my company, Mass Mutual, and I wanted to expand that. I wanted to know more people across the industry, and that has definitely proved true. I found a great community across the society. But I think for me now, it's a lot more about making a difference. And so as I've seen how many volunteers it takes to keep the society running and the fact that we've been around for over 100 years because of those volunteers, I guess I have sort of a responsibility to my generation and to the generations to come to make sure that we're around for another, over 100 years. And in order to do that, I think we need to think thoughtfully about the direction of the SOA, where it's going. I think we're at a pivot point right now for making sure we stay relevant and frankly, a really quickly changing world with a lot of competitive professions coming up. And so, yeah, I think it's doing my part and I'm just a small piece. There's a lot of other people doing their part too.
Fabulous. So was there an SOA volunteer who inspired you, and how did that person make a difference to you?
Yeah. I think for me, the name that first comes to mind is Tanya Manning. So Tanya was president of the SOA when I got my fellowship, and I've just always really looked up to her as a female leader in our profession. I actually got to reconnect with her maybe 6 months ago when I interviewed her as part of a leadership and development podcast series, which was fun. But yeah, she's just really inspirational. And I think there's so many others, right? I think about people like Olga Jacobs or Christine Hoffbeck, Dave Dillon, Daryl Wagner. Like there are a lot of people that I really look up to and that have made a real difference for the SOA. But the list could go on. There's so many people.
So was there an instant when you knew you were making a difference, an aha moment, if you will?
I think my aha moment actually came pretty recently when I had a number of these senior FSAs reach out to me and say that they appreciated my contributions and actually encouraged me to run for the SOA board. And that was something I kind of always thought I would do, but probably later in my career. But the fact that these people that I really respected and looked up to were reaching out and saying, hey, we think you're making a difference. We think you have some value to add, and we would love you to be part of something even bigger. Obviously, being on the board is a huge responsibility, was just very encouraging. And so it's early in 2020. I've thrown my name in the hat to the nominating committee, but I'm really excited about the prospect of possibly joining that.
Fabulous. How did that realization make you feel?
I think just really flattered and just encouraged that not just the work that I'm doing, but the work that my partners on the Leadership and Development Council, as well as other working groups I'm a part of, are doing meaningful work, and the work that we're doing is being noticed. It's always encouraging when someone recognizes that.
So how does being an actuary and volunteering your time make an impact on others?
Well, I think the work that volunteers do, right, makes an impact on so many different groups of people. But maybe for me, I'll share a specific project I'm working on and how I think that's going to make a difference, hopefully, for the 30,000 actuaries that are part of the SOA. So I have been asked to chair a working group that is focused on developing a new community engagement strategy for the society. And I guess I'll give a little background. So the reason this group was formed is because we, as the SOA, have started to notice that engagement with the society has been declining, and especially if you consider the young professionals that are part of the SOA, which actually millennials make up around 46% of the SOA, so it's pretty substantial at this point. They really view the SOA more as just a place where, hey, it was a business transaction, right? Like, paid the SOA money, I took my exams, done with that, like moving on. They don't really think about it in terms of a community. And I think people like, frankly, me and you, Kelly, and all the other volunteers that are being a part of this series, as well as the volunteers that aren't, we did find community at the SOA and we've built relationships, and that's what keeps us coming back. I want that for everyone, and so does the SOA. And so we are looking at the model we currently have today, which is sections, which sections do phenomenal work. They put out great content. They do build community. But to say, what is kind of that next iteration of sections? Sections were actually started in the 1980s. So at this point, they're, some of them are 30 to 40 years old. And we're not the same profession we were in the 80s. We're not the same actuaries. It's a new generation. And so my group is tasked with thinking about how do we build real community virtually, in person, across geographies, across practice areas, within geographies, within practice areas. And so that's something I'm really excited about, and I hope it really does make an impact on the profession, hopefully for the next 10 plus years. But yeah, we're presenting to the board in June, and then we'll roll something out in the next 6 to 12 months. So keep a lookout for that.
Great. And so what about impact as a volunteer and actuary on society?
Yeah, so I think to figure out the impact as a volunteer you're making on society, really all you have to do is read the SOA mission statement. Which says actuaries are leaders in managing risks to improve financial outcomes for individuals, organizations, and the public. And especially right now, Kelly, in a time that we're in where we're probably going to go into a pretty severe economic downturn, that mission is so important and so relevant. And the way I look at it is every volunteer contributes to that mission, whether it's explicitly or whether they're working on, a specific niche project. At the end of the day, like, all of us are working towards that common goal. And so I think the impact on society is absolutely huge.
So what would you say to someone who is considering volunteering, or maybe someone who hasn't even considered volunteering themselves?
Well, I highly recommend it. I hope that's obvious. There's a reason I'm doing it. I really enjoy it and I get a lot out of it, and hopefully give back as well. And I think you can here in volunteering and being a part of the SOA, you can find that community I was talking about. It's an easy way to do it. And I also think in order to make our organization the best that we can, we need people across all different spheres, right? We need representation from different geographies, different practice areas, different generations, in order to bring all these different perspectives to the table and end up with the best possible outcome. So I highly recommend it. If you're not involved, I highly encourage you to think about it. There are a lot of different ways to do it. You can find something that works for your skill set, your time commitment, your interests. But if anyone has any questions about how to do that or what the best way to go about it is, I'd be so happy to talk to you. You can find me on LinkedIn. But yeah, you should definitely do it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Amanda, for sharing your experience and your stories. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And in a future episode, another SOA volunteer is going to be asking me questions about the importance of volunteerism and its impact on society. So we thank you so much for watching. And thank you again, Amanda. We'll see you all soon.
This was fun. Thanks, Kelly.